Hey, Danny.
Hi, Lance.
Hi, man. Well,
hi, man.
Here we are. The holiday season, our third episode in the holiday season of 2020.
Merry
Christmas. We're talking about all the Black Christmas movies, and we are on the latest edition, Black Christmas 2019.
We're here, baby.
We've made it.
This is the what is it? This is last year. Last year, this movie came out.
Yeah.
What about it?
What about it?
How about that?
How about that?
Movies are coming out last year, and it looks like remakes are still a thing.
Well, okay, we got to talk about this. This is like
I did that on purpose.
Yeah, this is the rights changing over, and we got our Dimension version of Black Christmas, which was a unfortunate telling. Reimagining, as Daddy said.
I think that was more of a I have the names and I have the property, and I'm going to make whatever the hell I want.
Right.
With the last one.
And there's something that I think is so similar about Blumhouse, who owns the rights to Black Christmas now and made this movie, which looks just like every other Blumhouse movie at this point, except for Halloween 2018. But Blumhouse is kind of putting out the same stuff that Dimension films put out, which is it always looks the same. You're going to get some young teenagers that are current and hip. There's a shiny look to the films. And we have Black Christmas 2018, a classic, 1974, that we think is a classic, and a lot of hardcore horror fans think the same of. We've already had one envisioned tale, and now we get another one.
I think this is the most clear departure from the source material that I have ever seen.
Yeah.
The clearest departure from the source material as far as using the same namesake. Mm-hmm. Is this movie. Yeah,
and I think so often it becomes like such a sad thing for a franchise, or when it becomes a franchise, or when you take a classic name like Black Christmas, which is such a great film, and then you use that to make something so different and
modern. You want to make it modern. We talked about these movies being a testament of their times. Or, heavily influenced by their moment in history. This was no different.
Right.
But, when I say that this is the clearest departure from the source material of any horror film remake or any name using the same namesake, we can tell you the similarities between this one and the original Black Christmas using one finger, actually.
We're going to say it? Claude.
Det. Claude. Remember him?
Yeah. The mysterious cat that led everyone to trouble in their death.
Beacon of death. The honing device that leads you to your death. No more Claude. It had been renamed Claudette, and that's it. They say Claudette. Oh my gosh, I'm up. And that's it.
Still, we got a sorority house. And it is Christmas time.
There is no Billy reference. There is no one villain reference or use of. It's still like the end of it's going into the fall break. But as far as direct references or source material use, it's the cat. And even then you change the name of the cat.
Yeah. Claudette. There's now a female cat.
To Claudette.
Okay. Danny, give us our pumpkin spice eggnog of Black Christmas 2019.
Black Christmas 2019 centers around a group of sorority sisters again, this time at a new college where they are amidst winter break being harassed and or followed, stalked by a hooded figure and or figures, and how they deal with it whilst coping and dealing and trying to live through some other horrible acts that may have happened in their past. And that's it.
Right off the bat, we know that this is a different film because we get a slasher-esque sense. We get a kill right off the bat. But we actually see the killer. We see the cloaked figure and a mask. And this, it kind of reminds me of a Sorority Row, which I never actually watched. The remake version, which I think was another Blumhouse thing. But it kind of reminded me of that, where it's just
The original House and Sorority Row was
phenomenal.
Fun. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. But they remade it, and I couldn't care less.
And they just called it Sorority Row, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think there's like a killer in there that's just kind of the same as this guy, where it's just black cloak, and a mask. So anyway, this is now a more traditional slasher where you have a killer and chasing a female. Mm-hmm. He uses an icicle for his kill. Great. There's something there.
Those are dangerous. Those are very dangerous.
Yeah.
Not a lot of icicles I haven't had a lot of time to deal, or like I've never dealt with a lot of icicles in my past in South Texas. I mean, when it does freeze there, it freezes, you know what I mean? But it's few and far in between. So like, yeah, I know that icicles are dangerous. Hell, Ralphie shot one and it almost took his eye out.
Yeah, you'll shoot your eye out, kid.
So there it is.
Yeah, an icicle fell off the roof, and yeah.
Wait,
that didn't actually...
Christmas Story. Does that have a connection to Black Christmas, the original? It does.
I don't think we mentioned that before.
Yeah, because Bob Clark, the director of the original Black Christmas, directed and produced A Christmas Story.
So my two favorite holiday films were directed by the same guy. How about that?
Bob Clark, genius. Also gave us Porky's as well. That's it. Porky's was very important to me when I needed to watch it, if you get what I'm saying. But that was it.
Perfect. Perfectly said.
I'm not like looking for Porky's nowadays as I've grown up.
All right. So this film, we open up again, kind of a plethora of characters like the original film, not in the same light, but in a way of we get to meet some of the sisters. We open up a lot of storyline for them.
I will say that the camaraderie is really evident here.
Yes,
it is the relationship between the sisters being close. It's there,
and it's even when they bicker, it's still a sisterhood. Like they still come together.
Absolutely,
and they know each other's personality. I think that was very well portrayed on this. We go into some interesting avenues on this film. Mm-hmm. We go into their performance. I mean, we can get right to that.
Yeah. So there has been a traumatic moment by the lead character, Riley, played by Imogen Poots. Love saying her name. So she is the victim and survivor of a sexual assault by a frat boy who is it the sister brother frat? Like is it their counterpart, or is it just like the assholes on campus?
I think it's just the assholes on campus. I don't remember there being a connection on this one.
I mean, look, they call them the Deeks, right?
Yeah.
Are there Deeks? Because if this is just a reference to a real asshole fraternity that I've tussled with in my past, I'm like, you got it spot on.
Yeah.
Who go by a name like that as well. Pikes. But anyway, the point is that it's an interesting goal or adventure that the writer director set off on, in the sense of like, this is an important story to tell, and this is a all too familiar women not being listened to and men running the goddamn world sort of thing, right. And they just the amount of horse shit that women have to go through on a daily basis, and couple that with the idea that now you have to also throw in testosterone fueled young men and young women in college when they're trying to figure themselves out as far as like which avenue. So all that to be, you hear all the time. Oh, the attacker was just the rich white dude who got who's in the right fraternity or has the right connection. So all those elements come into play here. But we see a character in Riley who's a survivor, but she's not totally defeated. She's kind of living her life.
Yeah.
She's not like a hermit or anything. She hasn't like gone into seclusion or anything like that. But there's definitely a activist sort of feel with this tight group of girls.
Yeah. Riley's very independent. I feel like, unlike the first two Black Christmas movies, which none of these are really related, but she stands out immediately as our main girl, the girl we're going to follow as part of her story. So that's a difference that we can talk about.
We do see when I forget that that there is that small similarity between actually that all three of them share, is that someone does get killed right away.
Mhm.
So there's at least that. But the first two, it was Claire with a bag over her face, and this one is just nobody really shares any of the names from the original or the second telling of it. But this one, she's just being like, harassed and followed from home, and you see the self-defense techniques that they teach women to fight off attackers, the keys through the hand. So like all of that is so vivid and is so real, and it's like you're seeing it in an avenue that's like, this is not like a higher learning movie or like a teen drama or a drama at all. This is in a horror movie. So I think that this movie was very ambitious in what it was going to tackle.
Yeah,
it's hard enough to make a good horror movie as it is, but what they did do well was flesh out some characters.
Yeah. No, I really do believe that. And again, we go back to the sorority part of this, like, the females that we are following, we're pretty comfortable with them. Like we know who they are. They kind of hit some, I don't want to say stereotypes because that's not correct.
But they do hit some familiar tropes.
Yeah.
Because you have definitely Riley, who's pretty middle of the road as far as how she's being portrayed. You've got her, the activist gung-ho, we're going to take down the patriarchy. We're going to hit him, in the face. We're going to make it uncomfortable.
Sign my petition. Yeah,
sign my petition character who's, almost like her best friend, and her name is Chris. We got another one who's like, she's got the boyfriend that she's always towing along. So it's like there's a little bit of representation as far as like what you might find in this, sorority house, just a eclectic group of different characters. So at least that, I'll say, was done well. It was the characters were very fleshed out, and I cared. Yes, I did care about them, but I also felt like I knew all of them.
Yeah.
At least the top. When I say top two, I don't want to be a spoiler. Like, two people only make it, but it's like, the main. So it's like main girl, Riley and Chris are pretty much kind of setting themselves apart from everyone else, even though it's like it's a 4-girl type group. It's pretty much referenced quite frequently, but they have a relationship, Chris and Riley, that's different than everyone else's, because it's like you got your group of friends, right? Your tight group, but in that group there's the one person that you are drawn to more than the other,
right? So. One thing about this is a horror film at the end of the day. So in the very beginning, we get a kill, and then for a while we go without the kill. Phone calls are gone, but now we get I'm guessing it's like a college app where you can kind of.
Yeah. So they've ditched the phone calls and I'm going to lick your this and all that.
Yeah.
There is now first of all, it takes place at a university or college named Hawthorne. So Hawthorne College or University. And it's kind of showing and highlighting. Well, you really only look at it through Imogen Poots' character. You look at it through her eyes and how she's dealing with. It's revealed later that she's not the only one getting these harassing texts, these weird texts. And when I say weird, I mean it because the founder is the account she's getting the text from. By the way, the founder, that's how they like start the movie, right? It was a quote from the founder. Kind of reminds me of like Nightmare on Elm Street ish or whatever. The Edgar Allan Poe thing.
Yeah.
Go with me. No, but so she's getting these texts from the founder, and when I say weird, the dude has been dead for 100 years, but the picture icon is of the bust of the founder, who it is revealed that Chris, her friend, the activist friend that she has, was able to get that bust removed from its prominent place because he was a racist slave owner. So, it goes through type of plot points and storylines that you are being introduced throughout the beginning here.
Right. And it's a modern way to set up the phone call thing because nowadays you have caller ID, you have all these other things, but this is like an app, I think. So this is like a direct message sort of thing where you can't really track who it is. I think anyone can kind of get a hold of you on these things.
Yeah, it's like I had left university when these things were being like rolled out,
right? So
I don't really have a lot of experience with them, but it's like it's
the original concept of Facebook. I think it was just for college kids.
Yes, that's when it was cool.
Right. when Facebook was cool.
Yeah. Long time ago.
Long time ago.
But yeah, so here we are. We're getting some characters that we're learning about, but that thing that I talked about recently, then the most important thing is, yes, Riley is a victim of sexual assault, and she and Chris have created, as you mentioned a little while ago, a song. So let me get this. Let me make sure I got this right. It's they're kind of dressed like the Mean Girls. Oh, maybe there is a connection between all three of them.
Yeah,
Lacey
I just got
okay, one of the Mean Girls, and they're dressed in the Santa hat and the top like the Mean Girls do in Mean Girls. So they're going to do it's like the Deeks Got Talent, where all these sororities and fraternities come and they do like performances or whatever. So they're going to do the song. What's the actual original song?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, ho, ho, up on the house, old Saint Nick.
Okay.
That song. So they take that song and they remix it to Up at the Frat House, and it's basically a remix, a remix of that song, telling the story of her being assaulted by the president of the Deeks last year, who is returning for this show. So he's in the audience, and she's not even supposed to go up.
Right. Yeah. A friend of hers gets ill. Right.
Yeah. So there's 5 girls. 4 of them are going to perform. And Riley is the one, I guess, that wrote it, but she's been, according to Chris, and this is going to come up, her very pushy out there friend who's just like in your face about activism, which is like, I get it. I'm not trying to say all that has a place. It has a place, and I think that there should be, quite frankly, a lot more of it. What becomes, for me, a bit of I'll say turnoff, is when you are using my real, and I'm just speaking like personally, if you're using something that I went through, like a traumatic experience, and you're using it for your agenda to further your timeline and what you're comfortable with.
Right.
I don't like it. No me gusta. I hate it. Yeah. It's not for you to decide when I'm okay to deal with the trauma I'm dealing with. That being said, Riley is functioning. She may not be her vibrant self. That's what Chris says. She may not be the way that she was before the assault, but she's like working at a coffee shop. She's talking, like she's going to class and stuff. Right. We got to talk about class here in a little bit. But it's the way Chris approaches her that's like, I'm going to use, even though you're my friend. So what, are you an activist and are you pushing your agenda first, or are you my friend, sorority sister first? Right. Which one is it? Yeah. And there is a big moment and meltdown between those two characters. So I guess, because, it's, you got to be, you're tentative to be like, well, how am I feeling about this? Or is it just because, is it the actor? Is it the character? That's very hard sometimes when you're watching, you're trying to watch non-biasly. You're trying to watch the movie. I get fumbled on words, folks. I'm sorry. But so that was a huge thing that like really like put up, hitching my giddy up or an itch my crawl sort of thing. I don't like that. I don't like it when people do that, because that has happened to me before. Yeah. And where people are like, oh, you went through this? Let's go do this. We're like, well, parate, wait a minute. Yeah. I'm dealing with it. Yeah. You didn't happen. It didn't happen to you.
It's okay not to be okay, right? So you have to find your way. And when you are pushed, and luckily, like that part was told where they do finally clash. Yeah. Because she is kind of pushed into things that she doesn't want to do. She doesn't want to do this performance. And by the way, her friend went home because she was about to be possibly sexually assaulted. It was I don't want to do this. I'm in a bad situation. And luckily Riley comes to save the day. Yeah. And sends her friend home. You go deal with this. It's okay. Nothing happened.
So I think Riley wrote the song, but was never going to perform it.
Right. And she doesn't want to. And she even says he's out there. Yeah. So we know that she's uncomfortable being a part of this and going out there. So she ends up doing the performance. She freezes when she sees the head deacon.
A dickhead. And he's like, if you have been accused of sexual assault and you miraculously were able to, call in enough connections and all that shit and be this huge dickhead, why are you going to be super dick and like wink at her knowing that you're like, haha, I got away with it? I'm like, you piece of shit. when I'm wrestling with these, like, how do I feel about these things? If Chris was a man and was a pushy friend, I would feel the same way about it as I do. I'm not siding with the frat boys. As a matter of fact, all those dudes look like the dickheads that I got in fights with when I was in college. So fuck them all.
Fuck them all. That's one thing. I mean, I don't want to go down the whole list of everything that happens, but I want to talk about the fact that these frat boys are portrayed in a way that, yeah, you hate them right away. Most of the guys in this thing you hate right away. There's like two.
There are two silver linings.
So there's two silver linings, but this is another playback, I think, to the original where you kind of go like, oh, are you the killer? Sort of. We kind of pin it on like we never know if they're a good guy or not.
This is where we're at right now as horror fans, though. This is where we're at. We're told to suspect everyone, which I didn't think was what the original intended.
There was no intention on that. Right. It just kind of naturally happened with that film, I think. Again, I want to say naturally, but this film, the characters, what's happening, it makes you feel uncomfortable. And there's something I want to say about that because so many conversations, so many characters make me feel uncomfortable. And that's the point, I think, that was being written and the point of the film. I don't think it was done quite as well as it could be because there has to be an entertainment factor to it. Well, and I feel like that was a little lost.
I feel like we've kind of painted a nice picture as to what we haven't talked about. Yes, we've talked about the kill, but we haven't talked about more so elements of horror. This is a horror podcast.
Right.
We judge this movie based off of its horror film capability and, effectiveness. All that we said was about, characters and subject matter. All that is completely, well done. And, it kudos, it stands. All that being said, as a horror movie, I do not like this film.
Yeah.
It just, because I think the subject matter, which is a hot button topic and it is a test of the times, was set up. And then the payoff, they're like, oh shit, we're making a horror film.
Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to get to is like you get the horror movie opening, you get the slasher, and then we open up this world and you kind of settle in like, okay, this is a movie, like these movies need to be made, these statements need to be made, we need to feel uncomfortable about these situations and wake up people. But then all of a sudden, after everything's kind of opened up and you settle into, okay, this is what the film is, all of a sudden it's like, it's a horror film. And now we got like the cloaks coming after the girls. Like it cuts you off to a point of like, wait, what movie am I watching now? And that's when we get into the horror movie section of, oh yeah, we got to fit this in because it's Black Christmas. It's a horror film. There's a reason we're making this.
Right.
And now we get into the horror movie section, which is kind of B movie at best.
B movie at best. Look, the payoff is ridiculous as far as what the horror twist is. When I talked about class earlier, the main character of Riley is in class with Carrie Elways.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
From Princess Bride, he's Wesley. Mm-hmm. He's also the doctor in Saw, the original Saw. So, Dr. Gordon, I believe. Dr. Gordon. No, that's not going to work. But anyway, that's just me trying to do Jigsaw. It's for a later episode, I'm sure. No, she's in there, and I believe he teaches English. Well, he's been a target, and he is currently a target, again, by Chris, her activist friend, who is targeting him because he doesn't have any diversity in his syllabus. And Chris doesn't get the brunt end of his sort of passive aggressiveness. Riley gets it. Mm-hmm. And he's like, so I would like to say it's hard for me to teach class. That was good. That was okay.
That was good.
Yeah. It's hard for me to teach class. I'm teaching the classics. It's Carrie Elways, doing this professor's, I guess it's an English accent, but he's an American, so I think he's like permanently doing English accents his whole life. You know what I mean?
That's what he got hired for in this one.
But he alludes to it. He said it's hard for me to teach this when I'm being sued, right? So, it's hard because Riley's eating the passive aggressive nature of this Professor Carrie Elways. Oh, he just puts it all out there. He's like, well, you guys are doing this, so I'm going to talk about it. And he's talking to the whole class, but he's really talking to Riley, she's like, fuck, man, this dude is targeting me, and I'm not the one that is trying to get him removed. It's my friend. So there's another thing is like, I'm being targeted again because of your aggression for getting your agenda across, which is tough. It's tough when you're dealing with someone else who is so close with you. There's trauma, I meant to say. You're dealing with their trauma as your ammunition. It's tough because that person has to be willing and able to show themselves out. I mean, it's tough, guys. So it's like, you're uncomfortable because of the subject matter, one, but watching the movie, I start feeling uncomfortable with Chris. I think she's way too pushy, but we talked about that. Getting to the horror element. What's the big twist?
What is the big twist, Danny?
So there's all these clouded shroudeds, masked people. A broke man's ghost face is going after these girls.
We think there's one.
Excuse me. We do think there's one, and he gets the business really bad. Gets killed with the first one gets killed with the keys.
Keys.
I think that's a big moment.
Keys to the neck.
Keys to the neck, and dies. And they're like, oh, cool. He killed the bad guy, and then another one comes out, and he's got a fucking bow and arrow. And
I think the first one had a bow and arrow. Then the second one, I don't know if he's got anything.
Oh.
And then the third one has a bow and arrow.
Well, look, the twist is that you do think it's one character within the figure with the mask, and it's revealed after you kill one, another one comes out. But when you kill
the way the twist was shot to like set it up, there's a security guard, which at first I thought was a throwback to the original.
He's fucking hilarious.
Wait, the one in this one?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, he's hilarious, but he's made to be like a pig. He's like sitting there, doesn't believe Riley. Riley's telling her whole story about how our new Claire character is missing, I believe, or I don't know what she's actually saying, but
she's saying that her friend is missing, but she's also saying, I'm getting these texts.
Oh, the text, right. And the guy just doesn't believe her. He's making a sandwich. He bites the sandwich. Anyway, the security guy is the one that kind of reveals the twist that there's more than one character. But the way that this was delivered, I was so fucking confused.
Right. Because, yes.
He's security. He's not a cop. But he comes and he busts down the door right when they're going to kill, I think, the second killer or the first killer? The first killer. They've just killed that one. Security guy busts through a door of a different sorority house, and there's sorority girls there killing another one of the hooded guys. And then we go back to Riley, and I was like, wait, who the fuck are they?
Right.
And then we go back to Riley, and it's revealed that there's another killer in the same house.
So all these sororities are being, all these sororities are being attacked by these shrouded, these masked men, right? When they die or when they're being killed, they're not bleeding normal blood,
right?
Because nobody makes them bleed their own blood. No, they're bleeding like this, like black goo, black Christmas goo, black blood, black sails. No, so they are bleeding this goo, and it's like we've seen this goo before. I think Riley like touches a handle, and its goo is on her hand, so it's like this like goo is all this like coming out of these figures when they die, when they get dead.
Ink, goo, whatever it is, was used for an initiation into the deacons. We saw that because Riley stumbled into their initiation, which is usually in basements, I believe.
Yeah,
in film culture.
There's usually in basements, and there's usually a goat. No, that's just Texas A&M. So you have the bust that was removed of the founder is now with the Deeks, and the goo is coming out of the bust.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Well, it's revealed that not only is Cary Elwes, which he's the biggest name as far as like what he's been in, he's the biggest name. So it's like Law and Order, this person, and special guest star Jimmy Smits, and you're like, that's the killer. Yeah. So like you're like Cary Elwes, he's involved, and yes, he is like one of the main people with these Deeks, and it is revealed that the black goo coming from the founder is legitimately black goo coming from the founder's bust that gives the men in the Deeks fraternity special powers so that they can like kill and be invulnerable, yet they could still die, which then makes no sense. So then what's the black goo for? Anyway.
Well, it's supposed to be like mind control, right? I mean, we see our two possible decent guys of this film. They turn that catatonic, they turn on the girls sort of thing. They have the cloaks on, they have their migraines.
Yeah, so they have this like, this sound can only affect men, and it is like their way to subdue them as far as like the deeks are concerned, and they get these men and they put this black goo, and that like, gets them pretty much mind controlled, and it is up to them to now attack all the girls. But this time the girls fight back, and every girl on campus, every sorority woman on campus is now expertly trained in weapons and fighting, and they're ready to fight back.
There are some moments that you either think is laughable, or you give the credit of it being just the artistic vision. One part that's laughable to me is Riley's plastic pink shovel. As she's going down, she's left her friends. Her friends say, fuck it, we're out of here, because they did get away. They're like, we're leaving campus. And Riley says, no, I gotta fight. I gotta finish the deal. So she's got her pink plastic shovel. I know it's plastic because of the way it bends, the way it scrapes. It doesn't sound like metal. But when all the girls come through into the frat, I'm like, this isn't an artistic choice. These are the girls coming in and taking care of business. This was the point. And there's even a line in there that you think the whole movie was written around.
I think this movie was totally written to get to this final line, which is Imogen Poots getting the bust, and it's Riley. She's about to throw it down, and Carrie always is like, no, please don't. You don't understand. And then something about like, don't break it, or like, we'll break you, or something like that. And she's holding the bust just so she could say, we'll never be broken. And she's doing like this, like, thing with her, like, and she throws it down. I'm like, oh, that was the moment you were leading up to, and I get it. Whilst like all these fraternity dudes are like fighting with different sorority.
Kind of remind me of the Kingsman movie where everything's just going off in the church. I don't know if you ever saw that, but that's what that scene reminds me of. Again, I give it it's a creative decision that was intended. It's not supposed to be funny, even though it can come off that way, I think. I
mean, there's certain times that like your ambition falls short of your execution.
Listen, this movie had a purpose. It had an overlay of Black Christmas on it. There's a way to do these films, and like I go to like the Joker, where you can make a film on so many different levels, where it's just entertaining for the surface level viewer, and then there's viewers like me and you where we just start to dig, and they're like, oh, there's so many different layers where we can get out of this film. That's what this film wanted to be. I think the movie's uncomfortable, but there's no uncomfortable horror moments, where I would go with like Lovecraft Country, which we kind of talked about. The most terrifying moments in that show, I think, are the social moments where the main characters are these Black characters that are getting driven out of town and basically told, like, you're not only going to die when the sun goes down, because it's in my legal right to do, but you're going to die like a real death, kind of a thing.
And I think that's a huge thing, is like, it's my legal right to do is what that moment is.
That's like, it's so well done and so terrifying when you use social moments to scare people. But that had a horror element to it, and this one doesn't have a horror element. It's just uncomfortable, and it's important, but it's not a horror film.
I think they try to make a movie about the social commentary about what's going on. It's not going on recently. This is an age-old problem and situation that I said women have to deal with on a regular basis.
Yeah.
They don't have to be at a college and a sorority. I think they wanted to make it so much about that moment, and then they're like, well, as far as the horror element, I guess it could be that I don't know, there's black goo and there's mind control, and they all fight back. Look, is it a terrible movie? Absolutely not.
No.
But is it a good horror film as far as like what I consider to be great horror? Probably not. I guess at the end of the day, here is my biggest gripe with this movie. It has nothing to do with what's in the movie. It has everything to do with how fucking dare you take the sacred name of Black Christmas, as far as it relates to slashers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is the paradise in which we love our slashers. I am going to take exception to this. You took the name of Black Christmas not to do anything with the original or remake it or whatnot, because remakes can be good. You took it just to put butts in the seats. Oh, Black Christmas, a new Black Christmas. Come watch it. And you know what? It had nothing to do with the original. No. What's wrong with calling it anything else besides Black Christmas? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
I think that's the point, is to get people like us to go watch this film that we otherwise probably would have no interest in until it was free on HBO.
Yeah, I mean, I would have watched this movie at any, because it's like, yeah, I love a good psychological thriller or anything like that. But like, if you call it Black Christmas, you got my interest because I'm going to watch it. Yeah. And I love, it's like trying new foods. You're like, yeah, I'll try everything once for the most part.
And I get it. I mean, I think the playback is that, I don't know if this is controversial, this film, but the original was with the abortion thing. But again, you took one element and expanded it over it and try to use that as like your way into the franchise, I guess, or we'll call it. But,
I mean, I think calling it Black Christmas is not a director or a writer call. I think that's definitely the higher ups as to what they're going to call it. So I don't think that was their choice to maybe make this the Black Christmas movie. So I'll at least give them the benefit of the doubt. But as far as a horror movie goes, it's okay.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at it.
Not my thing.
Yeah.
As far as a horror film goes.
Yeah.
Anything else to say about it, Danny?
I will say that Landon. We need more Landons. We need more guys like Landons in college. In
real life.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need more Landons in real life. That guy was. He stood up for. He spoke up when he needed to, because. You see something wrong, you got to speak up to it. But it was what's funny is the line he uses to try and distract the Deeks when she's trying to sneak in. He's like, I think you could suck a big fart. And I was like, that's insulting.
Well, it speaks to his innocence, I guess, in this. And
he's just a sweet guy.
He uses he sees like, oh shit, and there's a bunch of them coming after me, kind of a thing.
You could suck a fat fart.
He was a funny character. Yeah, you're right. We need more of those guys in our real world.
Yeah.
As far as a rating goes,
well,
how many candy canes do you give? This
is the culmination of our Black Christmas trilogy, which is not really a trilogy, but the three-peat. As far as how many candy canes, I will give the final installment, most final, of Black Christmas 2.
Yeah.
2 candy canes out of 5.
I'll give it a 2. I don't know if I'll revisit this for a while, but I may get there eventually where I'm like, I kind of forgot about that. But I'll give it a 2. 2 candy canes. I feel like the last one was a little more enjoyable, even in its terribleness, but it's a different terribleness than anything else. So I will say that I think this movie speaks on maybe the era of horror that we're kind of entering, where we take situational things and make that the uncomfortable or scary part. I'm seeing it in Lovecraft Country and some other things. So I'm wondering if that is where we're heading for this era. We had, I mean, horror films.
No, hold on. I mean, there's nothing wrong with making a movie that is talking about hot button or dealing with social commentary and making it fucking terrifying.
Right.
For me, you saw it in Get Out.
There's a way to do it.
Yeah. There's
a brilliant way to do it. Yeah.
Fucking terrifying.
And I don't know if we were going to mention those films, but yeah, we get that in those films. And I think that's kind of the new era that's coming in. Horror films in general are always kind of a vessel for putting in the uncomfortable ideas of society. And I think that might be where we're at, is really pushing these new limits that we need to push. Yep. Just got to find a better way to do it, a good way to do it.
At the end of the day, we are horror fans and we want to see a good, scary movie.
That's right.
That's it. That's where I think that's the perfect bow to put on that one.
That's it.
Yeah.
Tie the bow. All right. Well, this is our show for Black Christmas 2019.
Wonderful.
That's Danny. I'm Lance, reminding you to
lock your doors,
bolt your windows,
and suck a fat fart.
And join us next time in our Slasher's Paradise.